Hey guys, Joe Bonamassa here, and I hope you enjoy this KTBA Artist Spotlight from my friend and yours, Joanne Shaw Taylor.
Probably the most important influence was that my dad played and my older brother played. So I just, being the younger sibling, grew up in a house where, you know, there were just guitars lying everywhere, and, you know, I was seeing them from like 4 or 5 was really the age that I just kind of thought that this is what we do as a family, you know. Some people bake or are butchers, and we're guitar players, you know, so. I just grew up with it, and kind of was in the blood in that sense. But it was really a little bit later. I was at school and they were offering classical guitar lessons. And my brother had kind of been interested and was messing around with it, but was kind of umming and ahhing. So I kind of asked my dad, hey, can I have Ben's guitar and maybe try myself? And, you know, got the seal of approval. So that kind of kicked it off more seriously. I was about 8 when I started playing classical guitar, and I had lessons at school, and then the teacher, Mr. Edwards, who was fantastic, really supported me and got me extra lessons. And then he got me an audition for the Birmingham Youth Ensemble, which I passed at, I think I was 10 then. And we started performing kind of around the country, which meant I went to less and less school, which was perfect. So I kind of realized early on, it's like, hey, I can do this and I don't have to go to school. So this is, you know, worth pursuing. And then really when I was 13, I got very, very into electric guitar and discovered blues music. And that was really when it kind of became an obsession. I was really fortunate where I grew up because there was a really good blues club called the Robin, which was in the area of Black Country where I was born. My dad started taking me there when I was about 13. And I saw, you know, a lot of traveling American artists, really like John Hammond Jr. and Cookie McGee and Bernard Allison. So yeah, there was like this, I was just fortunate. I grew up in this part of England where there was like this random little American juke joint that you could, you know, and your feet stuck to the floor because there was so much beer on it. And, you know, as long as you were with an adult, you could get in from like the age of 12. So yeah, that was a huge part of my kind of music education, really. My early influences, probably, you know, the most fundamental and important ones. The big guy for me was Stevie Ray Vaughan, which was sort of the first guy in blues that I discovered, again, via my dad's record collection. And Stevie really kind of opened up the door for me. I think he was the perfect kind of gateway blues artist for my generation, in that his guitar playing was everything it needed to be, you know, a lot of personality, great tone, phrasing. But also, you know, he was a great singer, and like his songs were like really good, kind of almost short pop songs, you know, like Pride and Joy and Love Struck Baby. So he was the guy I kind of really studied and then just learned about him and his influences. And, you know, so then I went to like Buddy Guy and B.B. King and Freddie King and a lot of the Texas guys, Albert Collins. And then being from Birmingham, Black Country area of England, you know, it's got a really good, solid classic rock scene. It's kind of the Detroit of England. So kind of got into Zeppelin and Slade and Deep Purple and all that kind of stuff. So kind of a mixture between the two. The two big influences I had after Stevie were a gentleman called Albert Collins and a gentleman called Paul Kossoff from the band Free, who were both really known for their vibratos. So that was one thing that I really worked hard on and tried to kind of master. And again, I think my vibrato is quite attacking, and I think I use it a lot, and particularly on quite repetitive notes. So instead of just going, I'm more likely to go and kind of try and get the listener's ear with that repetitiveness. So yeah, that's kind of how I found mine. And it's kind of a poor man's version of Paul Kossoff meets Albert Collins, basically. It's a lot more English and diluted version, I guess. I met Joe about 12 years ago now. We were both playing at a festival in Norway called Notodden. And he caught me trying to steal a bottle of wine from his dressing room. Unfortunately, he said to himself, I want to be best friends with her, which is basically how it happened. We stayed up all night talking and just kept in touch. And yeah, just been really good friends since. He's the best guitarist of his generation and will go down in history as a legitimately fantastic guitar player. You know, the guys we talk about, B.B. King, Gary Moore. But I think he just changed the game in terms of what he managed to achieve with Roy. The fact that you can come up in a niche genre and the music industry is going to go, no, we can't sell this guy because he doesn't look right, or, you know, he's got that nasally voice thing that he does. And just go, okay, how do we make this work? Because we believe in ourselves and we believe there is a fan base out there for us. And so just doing it themselves, completely, risking everything on themselves, gambling it, and it could have gone completely the other way. So I think he's just changed that. People are looking more now at promoting their own shows, completely being in charge of their own business, doing their own label, everything. So I think that will probably be his lasting legacy to the younger generation coming forward. My love of music is pretty far-reaching, I love blues and it was a very early influence, but since then I kind of found my way through to Bonnie Raitt, then to James Taylor, to, and Prince and whatever else. So it's kind of rather vast, and I think you take everything on board, whether consciously or subconsciously, which is fantastic. So it's really hard to pinpoint, but certainly in the early days, when I was like 19 and really trying to learn, one guy that really kind of helped me a lot was probably John Mayer, because he was one of those first guys that I think in his heart considers himself a blues musician, but knows how to write a good contemporary, pop song, which my music's not really in that genre, but yeah, in the early days, that was a kind of a good reference for me, someone who was guitar-based, but really focused on good melody and lyrics. And then yeah, after that, it's anything really. I think right now I'm really enjoying the kind of songs like the Motown stuff, in that kind of era. And it's just a simple idea, like Aretha Franklin, Think. You write a song called Think and it's basically, that is the lyric. But it's a great song, and it's only, 3 or 4 chords. So I'm trying to delve into that more simplistic thing, and hopefully I'll get there one day, I guess. Yeah, in terms of finding a style, I think I had certain things that I wanted to achieve as a guitar player, which was, I didn't want to be seen as a female guitar player. I didn't think there should be any difference. There's, it's not like a sport. There's not really a physical difference. So from the get-go, I was always quite an aggressive guitar player because of that. And then with the songwriting, because I always felt I couldn't really sing blues, I always felt I was a blues guitarist with more of a soul pop voice. So when it came to songs, it was beneficial to write my own, because then I could kind of add the blues guitar into a, rock blues song that could be sung with a soul voice. So that was kind of a happy accident. I think as I went along the way, knowing that I wanted to be quite an aggressive guitar player and knowing I was a soul singer, it kind of just kind of naturally blended itself on its own, and I don't think there was ever an epiphany of I found my style so much as it just sort of naturally, accidentally, fortunately happened, I guess. Again, going back to who I wanted to be as an artist in terms of just wanting to be as honest as possible and just be myself, and the one thing I always wanted to be was Joanne Taylor, whatever that sounded like. I just wanted it to be only I can write my songs and only I sound like me, even if it's within the confines of, one genre. So in terms of inspiration, I think I just use my everyday life, whether that's a relationship or I want to moan about touring because it's tiring and I'm getting old and I feel old. Or, business stuff, because the music industry is the most bizarre industry in the world. It's fun, but there's quite a few nutters in it that don't really know what they're doing. I think at the end of the day, the main thing is that I just love music and I love doing this and I love creating. So that in itself, you bundle that with the fact that I have a bizarre life with bizarre characters in it, you kind of end up managing to write something. Transition from touring the studio for me it's kind of become a necessity, really, in that we tour so much now that there kind of becomes that point where you still want to be creative and you still want to work. I don't want to just sit at home, but there's only so much you can tour and not, lose your mind, frankly. So there comes a point in touring after about 18 months to 2 years where I go, right, enough. I'm going home. I'm writing songs after 2 weeks off, where I do nothing but watch Downton Abbey. I'm going to write an album and then go in and have that creative, release. And likewise, once you're in the studio every day for 18 hours with a producer shouting at you, you go, right, I'm ready to take these songs on the road now and not be in this situation. So it's kind of worked itself out, and it's, you need both and they kind of marry each other well, so. Well, I think there's 2 ways you kind of take that live energy and manage to replicate it onto an album, which is one, what I just talked about in terms of needing that break from a road so you're excited to be in a studio. And also just being excited to create, you know. It's one of the main reasons why I use separate bands for studio and live, is that when I do get in the studio, there's that energy of new musicians that haven't just spent 18 months in a bus with me and are sick to death of me and don't want to hear me play guitar ever again or talk or anything. So, you know, you've got this new energy and that are excited to work on your stuff, and maybe it's guys you haven't worked with before that are bringing something new. So that really helps. And again, I mean, that's probably my favorite thing, is spending hours or an hour, whatever it takes to write a song, just me and a guitar, and then having, you know, like this album, Ron Otis, Aretha Franklin's drummer, come in and make it come alive. You know, it's like seeing your child being born. I was always really frustrated because I started so young that everyone used to say, 16-year-old blues guitarist, 17-year-old blues, you know, and it was always, my age was a novelty. And I was so looking forward to turning 21 and nobody would mention it and just, you know, judge me for the work I was doing. And then I turned 21 and it was female and I was like, oh, I never thought about it, you know? It just never struck me that it was different. So I think early on, I've always not felt pressure, but it's important to me that we drop the female guitar player. I'm a guitar player. If I'm not as good as my male counterpart, it's because I'm not as good. It's got nothing to do with the fact that I'm female. Because I don't want the next generation of girls, and I'm seeing more girls get into it now and come through, whereas it was a bit of a rarity when I was coming up. And I just don't want them thinking that they can't be as good, or, you know, it's not an even playing field. It is. You know, you sing differently, obviously. You can tell a female voice from a male, but, you know, guitar is not that. It's pretty gender neutral. So that was always important to me, that I just work as hard as I can and be taken seriously for what I do. And it's, you know, I always said that shut your eyes and listen to it. And if it sounds good, it sounds good. This was advice to a guy who was signing a lot of female artists. I said, if it sounds good, sign them. If it doesn't sound good, when you close your eyes, don't sign it, you know? So I think I felt pressure with that, or it was important to me. And I have tried to live and how I dress and how I do photo shoots and what I wear, not sell on the fact that I'm female. You know, I don't wear a great deal of makeup. I don't wear, you know, I dress smartly and appropriately, you know, and just sort of try and take that element away as much as possible, I suppose. But that may also be because of my personality and not being that girly in the first place. But so yeah, that's kind of important to me. Yeah, I think for me, what'll be really interesting now that I'm kind of a bit more stable in my career, and now I see moving forward, you know, I'm gonna see that next generation coming through. You know, I'm not the young guy anymore that I've always thought, oh, won't it be nice if girls have me as an influence, and, you know, I can influence them, and likewise they can influence 2 more and then 3 more. But what'll be interesting is I would really like to get to the point where a male guitar player picks a female guitar player as his biggest influence, which I think we're still probably 50 years away from that, maybe, the way, you know. So if I influence one girl and she influences 2 in that system. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that day. Hopefully I'll still be around to see it. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Because as you said, I had female influences, particularly as a singer, because I could never copy a male voice. But it used to frustrate me. I remember seeing these guitar player polls in Guitarist magazine, and it was like top 100 guitarists, and there wasn't one female in there. So then they'd do a top 50 female guitar players, and it was like Annie DeFranco and Sheryl Crow, and who are, you know, good, legit musicians. But when Jimi Hendrix is #1 in the male one, it's, you know, come on. So I think, you know, starting to see that change a bit and women creep in, so that's great. The one thing I've never been good at is being untrue to myself. It makes me very uncomfortable. You know, I'm never gonna wear a dress on stage. I'm never gonna have that much makeup on. I got good hair and a relatively nice smile, it works, I'm fine with that. You know, I'm always gonna be a bit tomboyish. My playing's probably always gonna be a bit sloppy, and that's fine, I like that about me, and I'm very accepting of who I am. I know who I am and who I'm not, and, you know, it's just, I didn't pick something I love to do for a living, like my parents told me to half-ass it, you know. I want to enjoy it, else I'd go and earn some good money being a lawyer and working too hard, or, you know, I'd do a proper job. So, you know, I plan on being myself and having fun with it, and just trying to be a good person and try and do that for as long as I'm around to do it, you know.